So now Indy celebrates going after the Lost Ark with Marcus. He prepares a trip to visit Abner Ravenwood, and here we are introduced to Marion, Abner's daughter, through their conversation. The dialogue here is well done in that it makes the audience infer Indy had a relationship with her, rather than outright stating it. We also end this scene with a nice snapshot of Indy's character. Marcus warns him about the power of the Ark, but Indy shrugs it off and says, "You know what a cautious fellow I am." And we get a nice shot of him tossing his revolver into the suitcase. So basically, Indy is Han Solo. In classic Pulp Fiction fare, we see that Indy is being followed by someone. This eyes over the magazine act is classic. Another staple of Indy adventures is the map sequence whenever Indy travels. It's pretty nice. The map is clear and the red line is hard to miss. It gives the sense of globe-trotting. Marion's first scene is really important. We're introduced to her during a drinking contest, in which she outdrinks this big heavy guy. So right away Marion is introduced as breaking the stereotypical female lead. She starts out in the movie in a drinking contest, something that guys are notorious for. Indy walks into her bar, and I love to play with shadows here. Marion is drunk and puts 2 shot glasses over her eyes. The second she does that, she notices Indy's shadow on the wall. There's a couple underlying themes here. The shadow represents that Indy is a big part of her past. He literally looms over her. It's no coincidence that she's looking at his shadow through 2 shot glasses either. Their past is like a drunken stupor. So she turns around and at first greets Indy with a smile, only to then sock him in the face and rant about how he ruined her life. Fun fact! It's actually assumed that Indy had relations with Marion when she was below the legal age. Marion shouts, "I was a child, I was in love. It was wrong and you knew it." And Indy replies, "You knew what you were doing." Although this is unconfirmed as absolute truth to my knowledge, there are supposed transcripts with Spielberg, George Lucas, and Lawrence Kasdan, where George and Kasdan conjure up a child molesting backstory for Marion and Indy in order to, quote, make it more interesting, end quote. In the transcript, Spielberg seems to be the one who has his head together by being all like, what? It's kind of awkward. From my understanding, and this could just be total bullshit out of my butthole, it appears that Lucas wanted Indy to have a more questionable character as a hero, more like an anti-hero, while Spielberg leaned more on Indy just being an all-around good guy. They settled with the resulting awkward, ambiguous statements between Indy and Marion. Marion reveals that Abner, her father, is dead, and as a result, she's been in this shithole for God knows how long. Let's take a moment to appreciate the setting. This entire setting complements the dialogue and the story. You may ask yourself, why does Marion just have to be here in the middle of bumfuckville, Nepal? Well, for starters, Abner was an archaeologist like Indy, so they did a lot of traveling. Another thing is, can you imagine a conversation like this happening in a fancy hotel or a diner? I mean, sure, it could happen in real life, but it just wouldn't feel the same in this movie. This conversation about a ruined past relationship happens at a rundown bar in the middle of nowhere. This entire setting represents how shitty of an idea it was for Indy to have involved himself with Marion. Indy is looking for the headpiece to the staff of Ra. You know, the thing he drew earlier on the chalkboard. Marion claims she doesn't have it, but after he leaves, she takes it out. Continuity error. Watch the headpiece and where it's tied. In this shot, it's tied around her neck, but then in the next shot, it's not. So now the totally not a Nazi guy that followed Indy bursts in, and there's some shots here that I really like. The shot here with Marion swerving her head to the door makes you feel as though you yourself just walked in. I love how the shadows again play here as they get smaller once they approach Marion. Note that Marion here is smoking, something that also signifies that she's not your typical damsel in distress type. We get pulpy yet again as a German threatens her with a most horrible demise. Indy saves her, a shootout ensues. So does a fire. We get into this surprisingly gruesome bar fight. I'm surprised some of this is still rated PG. Just a notch up to PG-13 would maybe make more sense in my book. I don't know, that's just me. Once again, more shadow play. I love it. And yada yada yada, the bar burns down and Marion is Indy's partner on his quest for the Lost Ark.